Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios and Speak Spokane, presented by Delicious Hamburgers. Welcome to Building Better Businesses. I'm Kristin, founder of Catalyst Consulting, an agency that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs start, grow, and level up their businesses. This podcast will bring you interviews with experts in all things business related. Have questions for a business attorney? We've got answers. How about your health insurance? Got you covered there too. New episodes coming your way every week. Find us on the podcasting platform of your choice. Welcome to this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Kristin Trumbull. She is an exceptional human being and phenomenal coach. I know, right? So the bar high, real high. You have no choice but to perform. Not that you ever wouldn't, but anyway, yeah. So we met through the Polka Dot Powerhouse relationship / networking group for women. And I think we connected on the Facebook group because you're across the country from me. And I think you originally were like, hey, I have a podcast. I want to talk to other ladies who are doing podcasts. And that was how we connected. And you're on mine, and I'm going to be on yours in about an hour and a half too. So clearly it was a good connection. But yeah, thanks for being here. I'm excited to have you and get some of your perspective. So
yeah, thank you.
Yes. So we'll just jump right in. So tell us a little bit about you as a human being. Who's Kristin?
So, well, Kristin is a mother, a fairly recent, unfortunately, widow, CPA, business coach, tax strategist, Harley Davidson rider, mountaineer, soon to become an alpine mountaineer, avid hiker, nature lover, workaholic. All of that.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's a fun little, I like that piece of it. So share a fun fact about you out of one of those
I climb mountains and I ride Harleys. People look at me and they're like, it's kind of like, huh?
That's true. Yeah. Like if I just your vibe from this video interview, I'd be like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So is it Everest that you're doing in June or October?
No, I'm going to Rainier. I'm actually coming out near you in June. And I sprained my ankle 8 days ago.
Oh no.
So I'm like freaking out over that. And then I'm going to Everest Base Camp in October.
Oh, that's right. Base Camp. Yeah. Okay. I had the locations and the months correct, just in the wrong order, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna be on Rainier for 8 days. It's a whole mountaineering class, for lack of a better term. But I'm going to be learning some skills, and then we're going to, do a summit attempt, hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll be very cool.
Yeah. I'm excited and petrified all at the same time.
Those are the best. That's how you know you're making the right choice, I think. Yep. Like that's basically how I judge it. I'm like, oh, I'm scared, nauseous, and also excited. So I'm fine. Yeah, it's great. I'm making the right choice. Right. Those things end up working out. So tell us a little bit about what you do, the work side of things. How do you provide support for business owners?
So, I have a unique perspective. I spent a lot of time as a controller and a CFO before I went into public accounting. So I understand the needs and the challenges of small and mid-size business owners, founders, family-owned businesses, those types of things. I really can take that understanding, and I have what I did in my firm previously and what I'm doing now. I take that understanding. I also apply something called a scaling up methodology of helping businesses grow without, rapid growth sucks cash. If you don't have the right people, if you don't have the right strategy, if you don't, execute it properly, it can really cause detrimental harm to the business. A lot of business owners get to a place where They just kind of hit the ceiling. They feel like they're bumping into the wall on a regular basis, and they just can't quite get over that edge, and they don't know why. I help them solve a lot of those issues, get past a lot of those barriers, make sure they don't run out of cash while they're doing all of that, or try to regroup and mitigate whatever cash bleeding might be going on at the time, and get them back into a self-sustaining position. I also provide the CFO services, so I can look at things from a financial perspective, and then bring in the experts for some of the other areas that I'm not the expert at, if that's something that they need.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense too, because I feel like, I don't remember if it was you that made me think of this or someone else, but I'm edging into the fractional COO territory, and that's I like that kind of. So is that sort of what you've done with the CFO space?
Yeah. Businesses get to a point where they need more than a bookkeeper, but they can't afford the six figures that typically goes along with that person. And I help them out with that, because,
Yeah.
until you grow into that space, until that full-time need, it can be an extremely expensive asset. So
Mhm.
I help them with that, and just, bridge that gap.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one thing I like about it too, is that like you can be in the position, but you don't have to be full time in it either. So
Right.
it's just like you get to do some of the fun stuff and like help people put together their strategies and their growth plans and everything like that. I
Right.
like that.
Right.
That's fun.
Help
And
them.
then leave.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Help them understand, get a little bit more, of their own financial literacy going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because there's certain things that you really can't do unless you're involved in the business in some element. I mean, I know I've found that, especially with like process improvement and whatnot. You have to like get into it and get into the nitty gritty
Right.
sometimes to just be like, oh, this is okay. Here we go. All
Right.
right. But until you're actually practically using the knowledge, it doesn't always work out. So
Yeah.
very cool. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what led you to your own coaching business? Like, what's your background and the journey that got you to where you are?
Yeah, so like I said, I did start in private industry. Typically, what happens with CPAs is, you go to school, you go to college, you get your CPA, you go work in public accounting for a firm, you do tax returns, audits, and stuff like that. And then
Mhm.
at some point, you migrate into to the private sector, and you work for a company. I did it the other way around. I always got to do things a difficult way.
Me too,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm like,
I
can I
worked
make this more difficult? Yeah.
yeah, I put myself through school. So I was working in private industry initially as, just accounts payable, worked my way up to controllers and CFOs. And then I jumped over into public accounting. Don't even ask me why at this point. I have no idea. And I ended up and I'm going to date myself a little bit. I ended up in a unique position in that I had all of that private industry experience, and I was going into public accounting at a time when, at the time, the big eight were really developing this whole business consulting departmental concept. So I was in a smaller firm in Delaware, and they were latching onto that same concept, and they saw my experience and realized it would be a natural fit for the development of their own business consulting department. So that was my introduction into public accounting. And I also, learned the whole tax field as well. And I spent several years, learning how to do it from that side of the table, working with the owners. And I knew the challenges that they had because I experienced that with them,
Mhm.
so I could come in and actually give them something more than a tax return,
Yeah.
because they really, they don't care about the tax return. The only thing they care about the tax returns is it keeps them out of jail. They needed more, and that's why that the whole industry shifted. So I happened to come in at that time, and that just kind of led me down that path. Eventually, I started my own firm, and I ran that for about 14 years, and then ended up selling it and going to work for my husband, because he was one of those people that had hit the ceiling, and he was just bumping against the wall and couldn't quite get his business to where he knew it could go.
Mhm.
So I wanted to change. He said, come do it for me. And I did. And we went and made a whole lot of money.
Nice. Nice.
And unfortunately, and we had a really great, I mean, we had a great time doing it. It was fantastic. It's just, it was a lot of fun. um,
Mhm.
and, um, until he got sick,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't,
Yeah.
but we're not going to get sad and sappy today.
That's okay. If it comes up, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's but it's such an important part of all of it is like you never really know what's going to happen, and like you get one life, and do what you're going
Yeah.
to do, and do the best that you can to live the best version of it that you can,
Yeah.
like
And
happy.
we did. We traveled. We worked. We were workaholics,
Mhm.
and we enjoyed what we were doing. And I'll be honest with you. One of the sexiest things in the world is making money.
Yeah.
It just, especially when you can do it, when you can have fun doing it, and doing it with somebody that you're deeply in love with. And
Mhm.
we had a lot of fun. We made a lot of money, and we lived a good life. His kids were grown and out of the house. My kids were grown and out of the house. So we were able to travel and ride, and really experience, have a very, I don't want to say luxurious lifestyle, because we weren't, we're not doing mansions and pools and Maseratis, but
Yeah.
we had our toys, and
Yeah.
our way, and
Mhm.
we enjoyed our life. So
Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah.
Um, so how there's really no good way to segue. How
Sorry.
would you no, you're totally fine. That's almost what this is about, this podcast is me being awkward mostly. So how would you describe the differences between coaching and consulting or any of those other things that kind of pop up?
Okay, so yeah, so the segue is that when he passed, his businesses went to his son.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't really want to keep doing that anymore. So I've started, my own coaching practice. And when
Mhm.
I started the coaching practice, I was like, well, do I want to be a consultant again, or do I want to coach? And and I actually got this question a lot. Well, people were like, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that coaching builds capacity, and consulting helps clients resolve a particular issue or challenge or something like that. Typically consulting is going to help a client address or resolve that challenge, or particular problem, a particular issue. Coaching is going to help the leaders and the teams find the right questions. In scaling up, we say this all the time. You have the answers. You as a
Mhm.
client, you have all the answers. You just need the right questions.
Yeah.
So, the simplest terms is coaching does for you. I'm sorry, consulting does for you. Coaching helps you do. So that
Okay.
at some point I can walk away and you can do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think for me too, like when I try to decide what I wanted to call myself and what I wanted to be, consulting was the thing that kind of came up because I didn't necessarily want what I think coaching can oftentimes also be a longer term
Mhm.
relationship, and I like for the most part like shorter term kind of stuff.
Right.
Although, I mean, I have a client now that's been on retainer with me for a year.
Mhm.
I did like I've done what was that grammar? I've done some longer term projects where it's like 6, 7, 8, 9 months. It just kind of depends, but um yeah, no, I like that description because that's kind of the for me, like I do things for people. And there's elements of coaching, and I'm sure there's elements of consulting and what you do too. Is there's definitely some overlap because you kind of have to help people. Like
Sure.
I don't want to just like do the thing and then they're like off on their own.
Right.
Good luck, bye.
Right. Right.
There's some of that like teaching and training, but it's a little bit more technical sometimes than
Yeah.
yeah than the coaching side of things can be. I
Right.
think it's
Right.
yeah um yeah no I like that. It's good. I was, people ask me the same question all the time too. Like, well, I'm not a coach. I do some of the things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know enough to be dangerous about a lot of stuff.
And
So
it creeps in. Believe me, it creeps in with me too.
yeah,
I will
yeah,
inevitably go, "Oh yeah, give it to me. I'll take care of it for you."
yeah, yeah. I can just set that up real quick. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 for sure. Well, and there's, I think, where mine tends to be is kind of some of the like self-realization stuff, kind of like strengths and weaknesses. I help people with a lot. Figuring out what they're good at, what they're bad at, what they don't want to do, what they do want to do. Like, because there's just
Right.
so much, especially as a solopreneur, you're like, you have to wear all the hats all the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you don't have to forever. Like, that's kind of part of the magic of all of it, is that you can find other people to help you with things. But
Right.
how do you begin to outsource that? But yeah, so anyway, we could probably talk about that forever.
Yeah.
So, so when it comes to coaching, what common misconceptions do you hear from people, either clients or, people that you bump into?
So I think the biggest one is that the coaching world has become a huge industry, and they think that if you're a business coach, and I hate the term business coach, I really do, because that is so broad, and they think
Yeah.
that
Yep.
you do what I do, what this person does, what the fourth person does, and it's the same thing that the fifth person does, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
We need to create some different categories
Hmm.
to really separate and differentiate, to make it a little bit easier for people to latch on and go, oh, okay, I know I can put you in this little mental box, and I know exactly where you are, and you're not in the same box as Kristin, and you're not in the same box as Susie Q, and that type of thing.
Hmm.
I really think that there's just, there are so many different areas of business that you can focus on, and that people do focus on, that are getting caught up in that broad, you know, title of business coach.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to come up with something different myself.
No, it's hard because I mean, it's the same for me too. It's like I'm a business consultant, but like, what does that even mean?
What does that
Like,
mean?
how do I? Because then you have to, yeah, you have to describe, because you have a very specific target audience and target market, and I kind of do, but not really quite yet. And yeah, it's tough because like we all have different strengths and different experiences and
Mhm.
different backgrounds, and all of that leads to how we help people. And then there's just the whole like personality style goes into it too.
Right,
He's like, I'm a business consultant. I can do a lot of stuff.
right,
I don't love doing some of it.
right.
But yeah. So
It's everybody is different, and everybody has a different most of us have different specialities.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and she's I'm business coach, business coach. Well, what she does, she puts together processes and procedures.
Oh,
That's her speciality.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, she can absolutely help a business grow, and she can help increase their valuation, which is exactly what I do as well.
Mhm.
But I hate putting together processes and procedures. That's
Yeah.
her speciality. What
Mhm.
I do with, scorecards and metrics and strategy is completely different.
Yeah.
So, it's that's been one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also one, it's super oversaturated and there is no regulation. So
Right,
anybody can just be like, I'm a business coach, or I'm a life coach, or I'm a health coach, or
right.
whatever. And there's no like regulation, like no body, no certifying anything. Like you just put your name on your Facebook page and you're like, this is what I do now. So I think it's kind of tough too. Like I know that makes me nervous just from seeing it from other people's perspectives, like just out there, like people saying that they're a business coach or something. I'm like, but are
Right.
you though? Like you don't even, how are you a business coach? Like just because you Googled a bunch of shit doesn't mean that you're. Because I talked to somebody, another polka dot actually. She was saying that she had a really bad experience with a coach because um she I'm trying to remember how. Oh, she said, you need to do these things. And then she'd be like, but why though? And she's like, well, that's because that's what everyone does. And
Mm,
she's like, and I can't remember what the specific thing was that she was talking about. I think it had something to do with social media or something, like having a Pinterest page or something along those
mhm.
lines. And I was like, I can tell you that I would tell someone that they do not have to have a Pinterest page and they do not have to have a Twitter. Um, do what's right for your business and
Right.
scale from there. But like, you don't have to have all the things. You do have to have Facebook. You just have to. That's the only rule I
Right.
have.
Well,
Facebook
I
and a
mean,
website, but
yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna have a bad experience with a coach, and, I mean,
yeah.
I've had bad experiences with coaches. I've had a lot of coaches, and I've had a decent number of very bad experiences, but that's
Mhm.
never going to deter me from, realizing that there's a lot of benefit can be
Yeah.
deemed as well.
Yep.
Definitely. I mean, I got into an argument over the messaging app with one, and I was just like, and then we finally, and God help us both, then it was one that gave you the ability to do voice messaging.
Oh, no.
And it really got
Okay.
good.
Oh, man. I've never even thought about, like, having, like, a fight on a
Oh,
because
yeah,
I use
yeah.
Voxer sometimes and then also, like, the voice texting or voice messaging and text, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
it
funny.
was just like, really? No, I mean, it was one of those things where it was, his way or the highway, and
Oh,
that's not coaching.
no. That's 100% not how it works, like,
Right, right, and I was, yeah, so, yeah, that was
that's
interesting.
crazy. Oh my god. I mean, it's like the same concept as therapy, really,
Mhm. Yeah,
like,
pretty much,
you're just
and quite often, it is therapy.
yeah.
I mean, quite often, it really is therapy. I mean, I've had plenty of people that I've had to talk off the ledge.
Yeah. Yep. I know I was describing at some point what I do to a friend of mine, and he's like, "So you're like a business therapist?" And I was like, "I mean, you're
Hey,
not wrong."
new
Yeah.
title. There you
Yeah,
go. We
there
just
we go. Yeah.
we
We've
just
invented it.
created it.
Perfect. Yeah. Keeping people off ledges since 2018. Yeah. It's true though, because there is. I mean, there's such an element. It's just like leadership in general. It's like you're part cop, part judge, part parent, part
Mhm.
therapist. Like that's just
Yeah,
you have to be able to wear a few different hats and like help people, yeah, off the ledge repeatedly.
yeah.
That's one of the fun things about it though. So, when and or why does someone need a coach? Do you think?
Um, whenever they're trying to change something, um, in business, it's always struck me. I've always been amazed at how people go into business. Excuse me, how people go into business and they think they know and can do everything, and they should.
Yeah.
Not just that they think, but that they think they should know and have the ability to do everything.
Hmm.
Why should your attorney understand how to do a tax return or create a marketing plan or
Hmm.
strategy? Why should your dentist understand, any of that? It doesn't. Why should anybody be able to do every, and they get very um down on themselves,
Yeah.
and the judgment. Oh, I should be able to do my own books. I should be able
Yeah.
to do these things. Why?
Hmm.
I only went to college and had 20 years of experience in order to, pull this stuff out of the air the
Right.
way I can.
Yeah.
Um, why? So anytime, I think, when anytime you're trying to change something or improve something or reach a new goal, or just try to keep forward movement, I think you need somebody there to help you, to guide you, to bounce things off of, to give you advice, bring in their experience and their knowledge. I mean, why every sports athlete in the world has a coach?
Yeah. That's the
Why?
example. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
they know how to play football. They know how to play baseball. They know how to do that sport. The highest paid professionals are the highest paid professionals because they're really damn good at it.
Yeah.
And they still have coaches.
Yep. Yep.
So why, as a business owner, wouldn't you have a coach? You certainly are not the highest paid professional and you don't have all of the answers.
Hmm.
So why wouldn't you go find somebody to do that? And as soon as you're trying to, hit a new goal, make a change, make a difference, go find one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I use the sports analogy pretty regularly, and then also that, like, the top paid CEOs and
They all
presidents or
have
what
one.
they all have coaches, they all do masterminds, they all,
Oh yeah.
get
Yeah.
support in those different ways, so it's like
Yeah.
you're not some sort of freak because you can't just
Right.
magically do everything on your own, like,
Right. I mean,
it's weird, yeah.
yeah, Steve Jobs had a coach for a
Yeah.
long time. He had a coach. He would walk with him on a regular basis, and
Mhm.
that's where they would have these private conversations.
Yeah.
And he gives him a lot of credit for helping him create Apple.
Mhm.
He was Steve Jobs in his own right was a genius.
Yeah.
He knew a lot. He knew exactly what he wanted. He knew exactly how to do it. He still had a coach.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Like, so if you guys were wondering, you should get a coach. So, what's one of your favorite self-reflection exercises that you use or you have other people do when they're kind of feeling stuck or whatever?
So I call it it's called a couple of different things: writing your reality, or reality writing, or whatever. Writing your perfect day. There are a lot of different takes on it, a lot of different versions on it. It was probably the single most important tool I used to get me through my husband's sickness and eventual passing, and then me staying in um, uh, life.
Yeah.
Kept me from going, just completely just curling up in a ball and giving up. Um,
Hmm.
and it's just a matter of, writing out what I want, a perfect day to look like, or what I want. I fully believe I manifested this house, because I knew once he passed, I
Hmm.
wasn't gonna be able to live in that house by myself. So I had to figure out what I wanted. So there was a lot of time spent, just describing what I wanted in a house. And lo and behold, I fell into it.
Nice.
Writing out what I want to be doing with my life, how I want my days structured. Excuse me, what I wanted to be doing with my days, the types of clients that I want to work with, the type of business that I wanted to have, the free time, what I wanted to do with my free time. There was, and it changes. I do it almost every day, not so much these days, but then I was doing it every day, and it's not the same every day. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it'll be the same 4 days in a row, whatever. Sometimes it's something completely different.
Hmm.
But I'm firing those neurons by writing it out by hand, and I'm focusing on it, and I'm feeling, now is going to come in the whole, law of attraction thing. I'm feeling I'm actually feeling not the energy, the feeling, the emotion. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm feeling
Hmm.
the emotion that's associated with actually achieving what I've written down on paper. I'm letting that fill my body. I'm letting it, do all of the things that it's supposed to do.
Hmm.
It makes me happy. And then, that's what has got me through, and that's what kept me going. And it's what, when I feel like, um, when it's not going right, and when it's
Yeah.
like, when you've pulled out the whole pity party, like, I can't do anything right. That's not working. This isn't working. Nobody's getting back to me. It's never going to work. Oh,
Yeah.
I get the thing out. I get the notebook out, and I start writing.
Hmm.
And it helps, because we all go there.
Yeah.
Everybody goes there. Nobody's special.
Hmm.
Everybody experiences it, and
Yeah.
it's what you do with it.
Hmm.
It's how you deal with it.
Yeah. I do that. Writing is a common thing that I come back to, like as a way to like process information or yeah, like brain dump stuff. Like when I'm just like, I can't, I feel stuck. I feel
Right.
overwhelmed. I want to
Mhm.
procrastinate on everything all the time right now. And then I also started audio journaling occasionally too, because
Yeah.
sometimes that's easier for me because I do a lot of like spoken stuff. So
Mhm.
um, that helps me more with like feelings stuff,
Mhm.
the audio journaling, and then like the like processes and things I need to get done and stuff is more written stuff. But that's still something I come back to a lot. Like when I'm feeling like in that, like you said, like stuck, like what am I
Right.
doing? What am I
Right.
even doing with my life?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will.
it's good.
I do a, for regular journaling, I'll still type.
Oh,
I've
okay.
had some people suggest the audio journaling. I just haven't tried it yet. But for just, I'm really pissed off at this, and this has happened today, and this, and because I like it, I like the typing, because I can, I can literally take out my frustrations on the keyboard, which may not be a
Oh,
good idea, but it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it makes me feel better. So
Yep. Yeah, you're like aggressively typing all of your
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
that's funny. I like that. Yeah, no, that I randomly don't remember. I was going through some stuff and the audio journaling thing came up because I've never been good at journaling consistently, and so it's just something that's kind of circled around, and I'm like, maybe I'll try this for a while. So again, I haven't sustained it, but it's
Mhm.
there. Like
I don't.
when I need to get something out and like again, like process it,
Uh-huh.
it helps. So I'm like,
Right.
hey,
I don't
all right,
do. I am not. I'm not consistent.
yeah,
I'm so far from consistent. It's not even funny. But when I know I need it, I know I need it, and I'll sit
yeah,
down and do it. And
yeah,
if I don't need it, then I'm not. Then no, I don't do it. It's not. I'm not going to force myself. One thing I learned throughout that whole losing your husband process and everything. It's
yeah,
like if it doesn't make me happy, I'm not doing it.
yeah. That's good. I mean, that's honestly, yeah, that should be life.
Yeah, it should be. We should not
Yeah,
have to go through tragedy and loss to
yeah,
learn that concept.
right.
We
Yep.
should know that. We don't know that one.
No, and it's a thing. It's like everyone says that, to some degree too. It's like life's too short. Like you never
Yeah,
know. Like hug the people that you love and like do things that make you happy. And then we just like don't.
right,
We don't.
exactly.
We just
We
don't
we
take that advice. Yeah.
we forget because we get wrapped up in our daily lives and our little bubbles, and
Yeah.
off we go, and we forget. And
Yeah. The challenge is to
until
come
you
back to
can't, until you're not, yeah, you don't. So I very much, if it's not making me happy, I'm not doing it. And if you're not making me happy,
it.
I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. No, it's good.
I'm
Yep.
sorry, but I mean, it's just,
Yep.
be nice.
Hmm. Well, and it's a lot easier to do when you have control of who you deal with too. Like that's one thing
Mhm.
that I do not miss about corporate life
Oh,
is the like, 'cause you can't pick, like, and to
yeah,
some degree, you can't really pick your teams, like,
right.
especially if you have any kind of entry level positions on it's like you'll never keep
Yeah,
people, so,
yeah.
uh, yeah, so just
Especially if you're a type of person who does
yeah.
who's extremely vocal about their opinions. My daughter's learning that right now.
Oh, it's good, yeah, it's a good lesson. Like, I have opinions about most stuff,
Sorry.
yeah, I know. It's annoying sometimes, but it's just the way it is, you know?
It is.
So when someone is considering working with a coach,
Mhm.
what do they need to know, and how do they know they're working with someone who knows what they're doing and isn't ripping them off or messing with their head?
Yeah, so sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes you hire a bad plumber.
Mhm,
Sometimes you hire a bad mechanic. The same goes for coaches. Sometimes, unfortunately, you hire a bad coach. It's a fact of life, and sometimes you get a bad egg, and
mhm,
literally and figuratively, and it's just a part of life. What the best way to two pieces of advice for knowing that it's a good fit and that it's working. Number one, go with your gut. Your intuition is going to tell you a lot. Does it feel right? Are you happy? Would you enthusiastically rehire that person again? And if the answer is not an emphatic yes, then you have a problem. You
mhm,
have to figure out what that problem might be. And then the second one is, make sure that you have milestones, some sort of measurables, some sort of accountability. You expect to have this done or be here or have some sort of result, whatever that looks like, by this time. You know that you've achieved it when you've hit that milestone, hit that number, achieved that result or something. And you can see that you're progressively moving towards that milestone, goal, or result. Then you know that what this person is doing for you, helping you with, is actually helping you for what you hired them to do.
mhm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I feel like just, like, talking to other people too or, like, getting referrals and then also, like, interviewing the people, is important, I think. Like, just talk to the person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The testimonials, the referrals, talking to other people that they've worked with.
Mhm.
They're very important prior to hiring. But if you get into it and you're like, not so sure about this,
Yeah.
then go with your intuition and ask yourself, would you enthusiastically rehire that person And you
Mhm.
can use that question. That's one of the questions that I use, when I work with clients in regards to any people, customers, suppliers, teams, employees, partners, banks, vendors, anybody that's involved with you in the business. Would you enthusiastically rehire or choose to work with this person again? And if you
Mhm.
can't say yes, then you have an issue that you have to take a look at.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing that popped in my head too with that is, like, would you refer them to someone else? Like,
Mhm.
would you tell somebody you know?
Right.
Because I had that with a client once. She had somebody that was working for her, and she's like, "Well, I just don't," and I was like, she's gotta go, man."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "But no, I mean, she's fine." I was like, "If I needed her services, would you
Mhm.
tell me to hire her?" She was
Right.
like,
Right.
"No." I'm
Right.
like,
If you
"Okay."
if you are, trust me from experience, if you are hemming and hawing, and
Yeah.
as you grow, sadly, and it's going to sound incredibly callous, but as you grow, you are going to outgrow certain people. It's
Mhm.
just a fact of life because not everybody grows at the same rate, and some people
Yeah.
don't grow. So, the people, when you start a business, you bring on, your very first administrative person and you
Mhm.
grow, and when you're at 20, 30, 40, 50 people, that very first administrative person, well, she's been with us since the beginning, is
Yeah.
not a reason to keep somebody on board,
Mhm.
if they're not producing the work that you're paying them to do, because now they're costing you money, they're draining you of energy, they're draining your people of energy,
Mhm.
and they are changing your entire culture, the entire culture of your business. And that's even if it's just you and two other people. Because if
Yeah.
you have somebody who's draining you and not fitting into not on board with where you're taking that company, you can't drag somebody with you. It's hard enough to get to your goal. Now you're dragging somebody with you.
Yeah. Who doesn't really wanna go?
Right. Exactly.
Like,
Why are you doing that?
yeah, why it's a dead weight, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. With
Um,
love and gratitude, set them free, because
yeah.
they'll be happier and you'll be happier.
Yeah, there was something I was reading, or maybe I saw on, I don't know, TikTok. I learn a lot of stuff on TikTok. But it was something about like, people hold on to things because of, I think it was TikTok. Like, the time they've already invested in something, like they use that as like, well, with relationships or whatever. I wish I
Mhm.
could remember what the term for it was, but like, not holding on to things just because you have an amount of time already invested in it.
Right.
Um, Looking at it like, this is an experience or whatever, and moving on from it. But that the future without that like,
Mhm.
I could, like, dead weight or whatever, is important. God, I wish I could remember. I'm gonna have to
I
Google
I
it.
I know what you're saying. People hold on to things and relationships and people and other
Yeah.
things because you have so much time and energy and money invested in it. But
Yeah, and
you have to look at it as an opportunity cost.
mhm.
Yes, it cost you time and effort and energy, and you gained a lot of information or revenue or education or a personal something, whatever,
Yeah,
from it. But in order to move forward, you're going to have to let it go.
yeah,
It's time to cut it loose, whatever it happens to be, whomever it happens to be. It's time to let it go, and with love and gratitude, set it free,
mhm,
and then move forward, because it's just going to be this weight lifting off of you, and the
yeah,
universe loves a vacuum.
mhm.
It's going to send something in that's much better.
Yeah, and I think we measure success in time also, whether it's with relationships or how long you've worked for a company or how long something's been, like, that's how we measure success or failure. And
Hmm.
I read an article about, it was about relationships, how we celebrate, like, 35 years of marriage, and it's like, yeah, but was all of it good?
Right.
Was even most of it good? Like,
Right.
yeah, there's tough times or whatever in any kind of relationship, but
Right.
it's like a successful marriage is one that's lasted for like 30 plus years.
Hmm.
And same thing if you've worked somewhere for a long time too. People are like, oh, and
Hmm.
honestly, I'm sure you've had this experience too. Some of the longest term employees are some of the worst employees. Like, it's like, dude, get out of here. Like, if you've been in a position for 10 years, you make me nervous. Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
especially if you've been in the
uh,
same position
yes,
for
the
10
same
years. This
position.
is not This does not
Yeah.
warrant a gold star.
No. And like some people are great. Some people really like that what they do. They don't, I've had a couple of people, like a couple of people that I can think of. And in a lot of cases, it's not a good situation because
Right.
they're just like entrenched in whatever
Right.
gross little swamp they're in.
I
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
I can tell you, my and I hate admitting this.
Yay, I'm excited.
So my first 2 marriages were relatively long each. The first one was, 14 years and the second one was 10 years. Neither one of them were good marriages.
Yeah.
My 3rd marriage was just barely 5 years, and he was the love of my life.
Hmm.
And it was the best experience, and he was the love of my life. That was the good marriage, and that
Yeah.
was the shorter one.
Hmm.
And obviously not by choice, but yeah, so,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, but it
Yeah.
speaks to, that longevity is not necessarily always a good thing,
Yeah. No,
you
I
know?
totally agree. Yep.
And it's not always a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but it's you have to take it in context. But you're
Mhm.
right, just because, somebody has been in the company for, 15 years, or because the marriage was 35 years long, doesn't always mean that that's, gold star worthy.
Yeah, and that it was healthy or growth oriented or anything
Right,
like that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's a good little side story there. Because I think it's important. So as an entrepreneur and business owner yourself, what advice would you give fellow business owners when it comes to running their businesses? What are some hot button tips that you can think of?
Get a coach.
Yeah. Touche, salesman. Yeah.
Have you
Or
been paying
consultant.
attention?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, get a coach, and get a mastermind group, get an executive roundtable, get whatever it is that you can, to surround yourself with people who are, more successful than you. You are the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to consistently reevaluate the people you're hanging out with, your networking group, those types of things. And make sure that you are, consistently, networking up,
Mhm.
playing up. I used to tell my son, I'm like, you need to friend up, because
Yeah.
his friends were getting him in trouble, constantly getting him in trouble. I'm like, you need to reevaluate, you need to friend up. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. You need to network up. You need to find those people who are, doing it just a little bit better or a lot better than you are, and hang out from them. They want to help you. They want to show you how to do it. And the good coaches want you to succeed. They don't
Mhm.
just want to sit here and hang on to you for, years and years, sucking money from you. Good coaches genuinely want you to succeed. We
Mhm.
like growing things. We like building things. We like making an investment in people and their businesses, and watching the impact that growth has, and watching that impact spread across your staff and your staff's family, and seeing all of that spread out, and making a difference and an impact in the world. So, find those people who can, give you advice, help you answer questions, mastermind, talk through,
Mhm.
bounce ideas off of, take a walk with you, and just listen.
Yeah. I like that. Because it really does, you can't do all the things in your own brain. But just like you were
Exactly.
saying, you can't be all the things, you can't wear all the hats.
Right.
Um, and a lot of us, particularly that work alone a lot of the time too, because that happens to me. I'm alone, I'm in my own head a lot. But I facilitate some masterminds. I have a ton of like really strong like networking partners and people that I spend time with. And so sometimes I just need somebody. I'm like, can I just talk to you about this thing that's in my head? Because I like cannot get
Right.
past it, and I don't know what the problem is because you just can't see it. Like you can't see your own forest.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
um, yeah, that's great. I like it. Level up your friends. Is that how you said it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Friend.
Yeah. That works. Friend up.
Friend up. Yeah. That's true. Cause you start to like play at that level and then you're like, oh, I am capable of these things. All
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be the good kid in your friend group. That's a scary place to be. You want to be maybe the one that's a little bit,
Yeah.
needs to talk. Yeah. Being the good kid means you only got down from there, man. It's funny. Okay, so what resources do you wish you had known about or taken advantage of at the beginning of your entrepreneur journey besides a coach?
Yeah. Honestly, if I had known then what I know.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what I'm looking for is like, yeah, here's some
Yeah.
things that might help other people.
Honestly, it would be, the whole mindset work concept, working on your mindset, working on the inner voice in your head, um all of the self-doubt and the fear, all of the
Mhm,
work that I've done in the last few years, especially the last 2 years. I really wish I had had available to me in my 30s.
mhm.
I think back, and if I had done all of that work back then, I'm like, my God, I could have run the world. I could have run my
Right?
own
Yeah.
country by now.
My God, yeah. Yep.
I really do wish that so much of that information had been available 20 years ago. And if you're not working on yourself and your mindset, and including the whole, working on fear, self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs, all of that stuff, if you're not working on it, you need to work on it, because that's what's going to hold you back. That is, and there, you throw a rock and you can find somebody to help you with that. And I've yet to really run across one of those that's not good. They're all very good and very capable at helping you get out of your own head.
Mhm.
But as an entrepreneur, sooner or later you're going to end up there. And you don't want to make decisions based on fear. That
Mhm.
is never going to work, especially when you have staff involved. That's scary, not only for them, for you, but especially for them. I've seen
Yeah.
that. I've seen that. It's not a good place to be. It does
Mhm.
not instill confidence.
No, because they can smell it on you, man.
They can. They can.
They
They're like
know.
wild animals. They can smell. They
Yep.
can
Yep.
absolutely, and
They're
they
like,
they
"This
start
is"
circling. Man, I've seen
Yep.
it. It was bad. It was really bad.
They're like, "This you are not confident with this decision.
Hmm. Yeah.
What's happening?" Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy how perceptive people are too. Like, there's a friend of mine works for a company, and she's like, "There's some weird stuff happening. Like, a lot of people are quitting. It's a pretty small company." She's like, "A lot of people have quit lately, and I think it's weird." And I'm like, "It's because it is." And she's like, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask and just be like, what's going on? Because something's happening. Like, some people that have been there for a long time, some people have been there for a little bit less time."
Hmm.
She's like, I mean, like four or six people or something like that out of like 100-ish people have quit in the last like couple few months. And I'm like, that's a question.
That's a question that the company should be asking.
Right. Yeah. So she's gonna ask the question because that's who she is as a
Yeah.
person. She'd be like, "Hey boss, so seems weird. I'd like to know, should I quit also? Because that's what it makes me think like something's wrong." And I'm like,
Well, with any luck,
"Yep.
they're making, the top brass is making some sort of, cultural shift
Yeah.
towards, shifting the company towards a, more of a cultural, core value concept that they're trying to drive everybody towards. And a lot of times, if that is happening, people will naturally excuse themselves because they don't fit into that core value
Yeah.
or that company culture. So it
Yeah.
could be a good thing. But
I don't think it is,
usually, if
but
that's the
yeah.
case, the
Yeah.
people who are gonna stick around know that that's what's happening. So
Right, that's it, exactly. It's like no one knows why it's happening,
yeah,
or at
so
least and they're
probably
not talking about it. So there's some,
oh,
like
yeah, then no,
it's like
probably.
high level on down to some, like more mid-level position. I'm like, "Yeah, you should ask. Let me know because 'cause I'm curious."
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so tell us how we can best support you. What are you working on? How can we help spread the word for you?
So what I'm working on right now is getting ready to revamp the podcast, my own podcast a little bit. I have just about everybody, all of the interviews scheduled for this year. So I'm looking for next year. I'm going to start looking in the next couple of months for highly successful um, female entrepreneurs, or not even business owners. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm still flushing it out, that I really want to have the podcast step into more of a powerful conversation about women in business, and some of the things that we've experienced over the years, and I'm still kind of flushing it out. I was in a Zoom with several ladies on the panel, and it was an incredibly powerful conversation about women in business and in male-dominated industries, and the experiences that they've gone through, and the things that they've had, the challenges that they've had to overcome. And in that, and being a CPA, I've lived in male-dominated industry my entire career, and I could completely relate. But I want to start having a much more that very powerful conversation next year. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any ideas, please reach out to me.
That's amazing.
Other than that, it's I'm very selective about the clients that I work with. So, if anybody is, looking to build a business or grow their business that is going to have a significant impact on, not only their customers and clients, but their staff, their team as well. Those are the types of people that I want to work with this time around.
So, I like it. It's good.
Yeah.
So how do people get in touch with you?
So coachingtheclimb.com, and that's the same on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Kristin Trumbull, Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram, but I'm not terribly active on Instagram. But website, Facebook, LinkedIn. And YouTube, Coaching the Climb.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. I do a lot of video. I used to do Facebook Lives on a regular basis. I'm switching it over to video now. But it's all of the content is over on YouTube. So lots of just very quick educational, this is how you can go find some cash in your company. This is how you can get your team on board. This is how you can get, delegate properly, those types of things.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
I like it. Very cool. Well, that was all the questions that I had for you. Okay. And do you think of anything else that you wanted to add at the end?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I think
well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm excited. I will be talking to you in like half an hour. I'm pretty excited.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.